with Liz. And I'm really honored and grateful that you're here with us today, Liz, sharing your story and your journey with concussions. And so if you just want to start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, I'm Liz. I am 31 years old, and I was originally a resident of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I just actually relocated up to Orange County, New York.
Liz, tell me, so I know a little bit about what your, like, one of your big hobbies is, and I just think it's super cool. So can you just share what that is?
Yes. I am a competitive obstacle course racer. So I actually just run up and down mountains of mud and complete obstacles along the way. So obstacles like jumping walls and jumping fire and crawling under barbed wire and rope climbs and monkey bars. So really just a children's playground on steroids.
I love it. So can you share with us a little bit about when your last concussion was, a little bit about your history and how you're doing? Take us a little bit along your journey.
Yeah. So my most recent concussion was December of last year. I was actually in Iceland competing at the Spartan Ultra World Championship. And as you can probably imagine, Iceland is very icy at times. It was pitch black. I'd already ran about 16 miles. Started getting a little delirious and not really being as careful as I should have been. And I made a really silly mistake and I fell off of an obstacle. And I hit the back of my head really hard and I knocked myself unconscious. Now, when I woke up, there was a really large Frenchman kind of kicking me and speaking French, and I don't speak French. So the confusion with the concussion itself and waking up on the ground of a strange country with a strange man speaking a strange language was a recipe for disaster, really. So that was actually my fourth major concussion. So I kind of knew going into it that I was going to have a long recovery process, but I certainly wasn't ready for everything that came with this one that I had never really experienced in my others. So this one I had the normal symptoms like I had with my other ones prior. Basically, short-term memory loss, migraine headache, light sensitivity, and sound sensitivity.
Okay.
But this one also, I found myself really depressed. Lost all my motivation. And obviously, as a competitive obstacle course racer, you kind of need motivation. So I stopped going to the gym every morning. I stopped running. And I just wanted to sleep all the time. And I just really wasn't getting any better. So I sought a really prestigious neurologist in Philadelphia who deals a lot with concussions, and he actually opened my eyes to the fact that there is a really emotional side to some concussion syndromes.
So I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. How long after that initial Iceland incident was it between then and when you saw this neurologist?
It was about 6 months between the initial fall and when I was actually told by one of my friends, Matt, to go seek out this neurologist because he had some of the same symptoms and he really highly, highly recommended him.
Okay. And so in those initial 6 months, what were you doing to try to, or were you doing anything to try to help manage symptoms, or did you find that noise sensitivity and that light sensitivity kind of resolved, and the piece that was really hanging around for you was really the emotional stuff?
Yeah, right around the 6 month mark, I would say my symptoms of the light and sound sensitivity started to be a little bit more subtle.
Okay.
But the emotional side of it was really lingering. And I actually had no idea that it was interconnected with the actual concussion. I really thought it just had to do with flying all the way out to Iceland to compete in a world championship race and getting injured and not being able to finish. I truly thought that it was just because of that. And I couldn't understand why I wasn't letting that go. And it wasn't until I actually saw the neurologist that it kind of brought a light onto the situation where I'm kind of out of control of it right now.
So share with us, if you can, a little bit about what that neurologist shared with you that kind of opened your eyes to being like, okay, this is more than just me being disappointed.
Yeah, I totally forget the medical jargon side of it. So
go with your understanding of it.
But really what he said was typically after multiple concussions, you start to add these side effects that aren't necessarily physical at all. He also shared that a lot of times the sexuality of yourself gets thrown off amongst your emotional side, amongst your sleep cycle as well. So these things are all really not physically hurting you, but just mentally they're there. And without knowing that it's because of the concussion, you can go for years and not understand what's going on and not be able to help yourself.
Mm-hmm. And so after that appointment, when you were like, okay, like this is tied to this incident, what steps did you take, or what steps have you taken since to try to, I guess, combat that a little bit?
I've done quite a bit of research on it, and unfortunately there's really not a lot out there on it at all about how to handle it yourself. There are certain strategies to it, and I think just knowing that it's out of my control has really helped me personally.
Okay.
Because I know I'm not crazy now, and it's because of this concussion. And one thing that I'm really trying to do is open other people's eyes to it as well. So I went to social media, and that's how you and I connected, just to try to bring a light to it. And also, I feel like for me personally, it helps with the emotional side, where I'm taking my sadness and misunderstanding and trying to help others with it.
So along this journey, or any of your, because I know you have the history of concussions, along any of your concussions, have you had a rehab team or a team of people that have helped you along the way, and who might some of those people have been along your path?
Unfortunately, my 3 prior ones were years ago, before concussions were really even being studied. And it was just, oh, you bumped your head, you're fine, get up and keep playing. So my first 3, I knew I had a concussion, just because I know when you throw up and after you get knocked out, typically those are good signs that you actually suffered one. So the first few, I didn't have really anybody. And then I think my mom started realizing that I had suffered so many in the past, and she started kind of talking to the neurologists in the area. And it wasn't until this most recent one that I found my neurologist and his team. And he actually has a team of psychiatrists and psychologists that work directly with emotional side, like impacted concussions. And they've been amazing. They just kind of help talk you through things, and they give you certain exercises, which I haven't really been doing. I need to get back to it. And then also just my personal team. My boyfriend, Kevin's been amazing in supporting me through it and understanding. And since finding you've been amazing as well, just our talks here and there, and my mom too. So got my clinical team and my personal team, and they've been working really well together.
Where would you say, or would you say, that you still have moments that you struggle with, or not even struggle, but that you know that this last concussion and, well, kind of the build of your concussions impacts some of your decisions or your choices or things today?
I've laid off racing a lot this past year because I wasn't cleared to do any real intense physical activity until maybe 3 months ago.
Okay.
So that side of it's been affected pretty heavily. And I think that also not being able to compete and not being able to race almost makes the emotional side of it that much harder to deal with because I don't have that outlet that I'm so used to having. I still definitely have motivational issues as well. And I like to sleep a lot more than I ever have still. So, yeah, just still lingering issues here and there, but it's nice to just have a reason why and not just wake up every morning and think that you're just crazy.
Right. Did you find, so your regular outlet, which was obviously the training for the races and then the races, has been put on hold or scaled back a lot in this last year? Did you
Yeah.
find something to be an alternative outlet for you?
I really have started reading a lot more now that I don't have that visual sensitivity anymore.
Okay.
And that's been really nice. And I've also really kind of tuned into my art side as well.
Okay.
So yeah, very creative, and using that creative outlet has helped a good bit. And it's nice because I actually usually take my creations or whatever it is that I make and I take it to my therapist so they can kind of see where I'm at in that state. So it's kind of interesting to see how they feel it represents me, and what I was thinking in the time is totally different. It's been very cool, and my therapist actually has a picture of every single thing that I brought in.
And I'm so awesome that you found a team that not only something else for you to channel your emotion, but a team that is taking that and helping you with that and can, like, that's just cool that they've pulled that into in essence kind of your strategies and your how you move forward.
Yeah.
If there was something that you know now that you wish you had known when you got your concussion, what might that be?
Honestly, the most simple answer is that a concussion can affect your emotional stability and your emotional response to things. I put my boyfriend through the ringer for 6 months, and I don't know why or how he stuck by me, but I was a mess. And I think if I would have known what I know now about concussion, it would have made our relationship a whole lot smoother throughout those 6 months. And just knowing too that I'm not as in control of my feelings as I typically am, and that's okay. And it's gonna come back eventually. So.
If you could give a word of encouragement or, you know, that a word of advice to other people that are living with kind of persistent concussion or post-concussion syndrome, what would you want to say to them?
That it's okay to go through the process, and every person's concussion is going to bring different symptoms and syndromes, and just try to figure out which ones are affecting you the most and go from there and try to understand it a little bit more, and also just be patient. It's incredible how long the process is or can take. Through my 4, we're pretty sure that they've gotten about twice as long for the recovery time each time. So my first one was about 2 to 3 months. The next was about 6, and then it was a year. So I'm assuming this one's going to take about 2 years. And I'm ready for it now. I understand what's happening, and I just taking the right steps and connecting with the right people and getting through it.